it's time to hear from the coach, brought to you by Shamrock Office Solutions, a proud partner of St. Mary's Athletics. Pretty good offensive performance tonight, I would say, 57%. And even with that scoreless streak, and there about 5 minutes in the second half when Pepperdine made that run to cut it down to 9 again, you still put up 85.
Yeah, other than that run, and obviously it's hard to score when you keep giving the other team the ball back. And I think we had a couple of turnovers in there that kind of ignited their fire a little bit, actually. I mean, I think we're at the point where we had them just about broken, and we gave it back to them, I think, 3 times in that stretch, and they got out and shot some layups and hit a couple of threes, and then they got excited, and it was back to 11, and you got to get back and grind again. But yeah, offensively, really nice job. And I know the numbers at halftime were outstanding. Probably didn't shoot the 3 as well in the second half as what we did early, but Calvin got us off to a great start.
I think you said after that Pacific game on Thursday that you got out to that big lead at 19 in the first half and kind of let up a little bit, if you will, and tried to play to hold on to the lead instead of keeping your foot down. Was that the message at halftime? Because that's exactly what it seemed like you did.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we talked at halftime about having to play games right the way through. I mean, conference games, every game's important because there's a tournament at the end and seedings and everything else. It doesn't matter where they are. If they can sneak up one spot on the ladder, then at the end of the year, at the conference tournament, that's one valuable spot they sneak up. So if they could have come in and jagged a win after being down big, and really we got a good look at a 3 right on half time that would have put us 17 up, which would have been nice, but unfortunately that one didn't go.
You always want more, don't you? I mean,
yeah. That's yeah, I can't believe we missed a shot. That's just awful.
Don't get too greedy now. I mean, you look down the score sheet here, but your offense did a great job of taking what was given to you. I mean, tonight was Joe Rahan's night to score in bunches, especially there in the first half. He finished with 22, and Calvin Hermanson with 19. But just a really efficient night on the offensive side, and again, taking what they gave you.
Yeah, and we had a plan about their ball screen defense and what we were going to try and attack on that, and that wasn't really as has been in the past, where we've been good on rolls and throwouts. It was they play more stuck to shooters and rollers, and the ball screen user gets a chance to score at the rim, and that's really where Joe got points early. And then when it wasn't ball screen, it was okay, let's pound it inside. And Jock took a couple of possessions to understand how they were guarding, and then he got going. And again, he had a really efficient night. He was 15 and 10, 5 assists, no turnovers in under 30. Was it 28 minutes? It's a really good night for Jock. I thought he played well after that first probably 3 catches where you've got a 6'7" guy that's 265 pounds playing underneath him. It's just a different way to play. Last week you have a 7'1" guy playing against you. Now the pressure's coming from down low, not up the top. And once he worked it out, he was good.
Like you mentioned, this was going to kind of be an attrition thing tonight with the lack of depth for Pepperdine. And you pick up 3 early fouls on Taylor, I believe it was. He finished with 2. I thought he picked up 3 there in the first half. But overall, it looks like you executed, because overall, total fouls for Pepperdine 20, total fouls for St. Mary's just 11.
Yeah, and no, that was a big part of it, trying to get at the bench bigs. Is that probably didn't pan out that way because we didn't drag the fouls out. We were able to score, and Jock got some really nice throwouts for 3s, and the offense still worked, but it didn't drag the fouls out of their starting bigs that we thought we were going to try and get to. And obviously, ball screen D is one of those things. You put them in a position where they've got to help, and in the end, they tried to switch, and Joe just took advantage of the switch and got some layups. But look, good job. I thought they played well. Thought they played hard. I mean, obviously Murray's a great player. You don't score as many points as he scored in his career without being a great player.
Yeah, they contested points. Yeah, a lot of those jumpers were. I mean, he had a hand in his face. You think he's going to have a shot at the NBA? Certainly, he'll be in a summer league somewhere.
He's certainly a pro somewhere, whether it's the NBA. I mean, that's really just right time, right spot, and who knows? Is he good enough? Maybe is he big enough? Well, who knows? Yeah. But the things he can do, he can catch and shoot, and he can catch and shoot on the run, and he can catch and shoot off the dribble, and that's a pretty good recipe for a good scorer. He can score in all 3 ways. Look, NBA-wise, he's not going to post people up, but he does in this league. He takes people down the block, and he's good down there because he is, he's a big guard. But he's a really good player.
You talked about their big three on our pregame show, and Murray obviously had. We talked about Murray with 29, Major was 17. Dane Pinot, great job on Chris Reyes, and whoever really. I mean, 8 points on 10 shots. And he never really got into a rhythm.
No, not at all. I mean, he had 4 early, and then he didn't score for a long time. He got another 4 points later. But, once again, when you understand, I guess in some ways it's physics or it's angles, it's bombing or whatever it is, you just stay wide and low and make him score over the top of you. Don't give him an angle. And the scores he got were his angled scores where he got people in the air and could go by the hip. He shot a nice reverse layup off after a shot fake. And once we took those out of his game, and at 6'6", it's hard to score over a guy that's 6'9" with his hands up. So no angles and score over me. And if you score, great. If you don't, we're going to rebound it.
On top of that, it seemed like Dane really frustrated him.
Oh yeah,
a lot. Dane, he does that.
Dane like frustrates everyone, whether it's to do with basketball or anything else. He's just a frustrating person.
Well, and you look at the rest of the supporting cast. I'm sure that was part of the message tonight too. Just 11 from guys outside of the top 3 for Pepperdine, and Nolan Taylor got 8, but a lot of those 8 came in the first 10 minutes or so. And once you adjusted, it's hard to beat a team, when you have 3 guys doing most of the work and everyone else is shut off.
And one of Nolan's hit a 3. I mean, we didn't have him down as a shooter, and we knew he could shoot a mid-range. I mean, that kind of stretched the range a little bit further than we thought. So, look, you live with those ones. If people have to score in ways they don't normally score, then that's okay. That's on the coaches, and we'll tell you what we want. Obviously, for Murray, it was no threes and no right, and that's what he got early on. He was able to get to his right, and he was able to shoot threes. And scouting is such a big part of the game at this level, taking individuals away from what they do. If they're good enough to score another way, well, no, you can't stop everything, but don't let them score the way that we know they can.
You got to be happy with the way that coming off that Thursday game, your team was able to get the ball inside. But 50 points in the paint tonight, and it came in a variety of ways: drives, post-ups, pick and rolls.
Yeah, definitely a big focus of what we wanted paint touches, whether it's on the catch or on the penetration, and don't have to score down there, but just throwing the ball inside collapses the defense, and it frees up shooters in different ways. And that's where I thought Jock did a really nice job. He said 5 assists, no turnovers, under pressure down there. They didn't come and double him, but there was a physical presence on him all the time. You get shots from the perimeter if your post guys are scoring or being active.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think they stayed in man for 95% of the. Were you
surprising.
Surprised by that?
Yeah, surprising. I mean, and it was only really late, halfway through the second, that they went to a zone. I really thought they'd at least give that a crack early on and see how it went, and then if it didn't go well, we'll go back to it later. But I was surprised they played basically the whole game man-to-man.
Almost halfway through conference play. It goes by so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Every year, and San Francisco obviously coming up next. And they're coming off a big win over San Diego. Does it make it easier or tougher? Do you guys not even notice, like, when you play a team 2 weeks after you played them the first time?
Well, it's certainly easier on the coach that's got the scout, because you've pretty much got it done. If it's a big break, like if you play someone in the first couple of weeks and don't play them again until the last couple of weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, a lot can change in that time. In a 2-week period, not much is going to change unless there's been an injury, or generally coaches are going to coach a similar way. But certainly over a 6 or 8 week period, teams evolve both in personnel. As I said, teams will tend to shrink their rosters. They'll decide on their rosters towards the back end of conference. But also they start adding new players, or they put in different things. And the coaches always hold things back for conference play or for second round, and then again for conference tournament that you don't see all through the conference play. You'll pull out a new play in a certain situation. And it's an ever-changing world, and no doubt the advent of video has sped up the evolution of the game, because everyone knows what you're doing. I mean, before video, no one could scout you. They just had to do it by eye during the game and try and have someone writing it down. But it's good for the game, because it means the game changes and people come up with new ideas.
Evan Fitzner pulled out something new tonight. Was that his first collegiate? I mean, we all knew that he could dunk, obviously, but was that his first collegiate dunk? He got. I think he may have.
Yeah, I think he may have just squeezed one in last year. It may have not gone in the score sheet as a dunk. I think it was probably more of a layup, but that was a dunk. That was like,
no question. That was a hammer.
Yeah. No, he was. he was elbow above the rim and really threw it down. It was a really nice play because he would normally have just shot that three, and he was composed enough, knew the guy was running hard at him late shot clock to get him lifted on a shot fake and go right by him and throw it down.
And it seemed like there was a lot of that. I mean, there were a lot of head fake, flybys, drive-by. Pepperdine made a concerted effort, especially in the second half, not to let you guys beat them from beyond the arc.
Yes, definitely. And that's how teams are going to play us. They know that our strength is the numbers of shooters we've got. And obviously, like everyone else, we start raining threes. It's a good way to build momentum quickly, and teams don't want us doing that.
Marty Clarke, thank you so much, and we will see you on Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations on the win. Now we're going to talk about the guys who had to deal with Lamond Murray Jr. and try and help limit him. He's our Crown Plaza player of the game. He's Calvin Hermanson, fresh off a 19-point performance. Let's start on the offensive side because you guys, talking to Marty too, I mean, you guys did a really nice job of taking what was given tonight.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely what we always try and do. Jock did a good job establishing a presence inside early, and it really opened it up for us. They started crashing hard on him, and we were able to move the ball really well tonight and find the open man.
Let me get this out of the way, too. Are there burritos back there?
There are meatball sandwiches back there.
Okay. I don't think I got one of those. I got a burrito last game, and I was all fired up, and now I'm expecting it.
I'm sure there's one meatball sandwich back there with your name on it.
There might be. I'm going to have to go check after this. Are they the locker room, coach's office? Where are they?
They're in the separate locker room, the second one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Got that out of the way. So
yeah, you got
it.
it.
Okay. Talk about the scout for Lamond Murray Jr. Obviously, he's a dynamic player. Doesn't need much room to get a shot off. He had 29 tonight, but of the 20 shots he took, I'd say probably 12 or 13 were really well contested.
Yeah, definitely a tough cover for us. We knew he was their guy coming in. We really wanted to limit his threes and probably don't let him go right was kind of our big deal. Yeah, definitely a tough cover. Spending the whole night running around screens and chasing him around, I was pretty darn tired after the game. But, I just wanted to make sure – I just wanted to try and make it tough on him. Try and get a hand on all his shots and hopefully limit his touches.
And you've done a lot of that this year. I mean, you've chased around a lot of really good scores this season, and I know you pride yourself on your defense. We talked about the Stanford game, the UAB game, even in conference here. I'm blanking on some of the other guys that you've had to cover. But, you do that, and you've scored double figures now, 5 your last 6 and 4 straight. How do you expend so much energy on the defensive side and still leave some in the tank over here on the offensive side?
Well, the nice thing on offense is I don't have to be the guy to create all the shots most of the time. It's mainly Emmett and Joe, and they do a great job of spreading the ball around. And, even Jock had a great pass to me out of the post tonight. And, it's easier when you can just catch and shoot. And, we've been doing a really good job last few games on offense and moving the ball. And, it's tough on defense sometimes, but you gotta know there's a media timeout every 4 minutes, and you got to give it your all until then, and then that's when you get your rest.
How'd it feel to drop career high 27 in your hometown?
That was pretty fun.
Last week.
That was a fun game.
Yeah.
Felt good right off the bat. Was getting threes, back cuts, and guys were doing a great job finding me. So. And that was a fun game for us. We did probably one of our best overall games, offense and defense.
Were you surprised in this game that Pepperdine didn't show zone as much as I'm sure you were expecting? Because Marty said in the pregame they run a lot of zone, probably one of the most in the conference. But really, I think 5-10% of the game tonight they showed a zone.
Yeah, we kind of expected them to come out with it more in the second half because we had such a good first half offensively, and I think they showed it a little more in the second half. But again, not many possessions. Constantly in timeouts where it was always get ready for zone. They might switch it up, whatever. But I don't know what their game plan was.
When they did go to a zone, you guys did a really nice job of going to the high post and getting some high-low action there. Mm-hmm. That might have helped break it. But is that something you guys worked on between the Pacific game and tonight? Because the Pacific zone, credit to them, I mean, they played really hard and they played with a lot of energy, but it was effective.
No, definitely. I think it's definitely something we saw on film, and the success that we had against Pacific, against their zone, of working the high-low and Jock getting good seals on the lower guard, on the outsides. We definitely saw that, and we were ready if they went to zone, and you saw it again tonight. The few possessions they went to zone, we definitely looked for Jock inside.
How much of a concentration was it to get the ball inside, not just on post-ups, but on drives and the high-low that we talked about, pick and rolls? Because you get 50 points in the paint tonight, and you guys did it in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we wanted to make sure we established Jock down inside, and it was pretty clear early on, even in the first half, they couldn't really guard him down there. Their guy was picking up fouls, and we wanted to exploit that, so we wanted to keep the attack inside out.
What can you say about what Dane does on the defensive end, especially? I mean, he was 5 for 5 tonight on the offensive end, but it's almost like he's so good defensively. Whatever he gives you on this side's a bonus. But again, I mean, Chris Ray he's a good player. I don't know. Did you play with Chris here at St. Mary's?
I was here my first summer I got here. So before my freshman fall, I was here in the summer working out in June, and Chris was here before he transferred, so I know him a little bit. Hard worker, good guy, and Dane did a great job on him tonight, just doing his thing. Great having a guy like Dane behind you, especially guarding on balls. He's probably the best on ball shower and defender that I've ever seen and played with. So, yeah, it's awesome playing with him.
Obviously, they swept you guys last year. Probably kept you out of the tournament. Was that? I mean, probably not amongst the coaches. I'm assuming anyway, just kind of being on the outside looking in, but was that was that in the back of you guys' mind? Did you guys talk about that at all?
Actually, we did a little bit. We know that they got us here last year, and we don't like to lose at home, and I mean we don't like to lose period, but especially at home. And we know that they swept us in regular season last year, and we decided we want to come out and play with a chip on our shoulder. Like they're not going to get us again this year.
You were the Muscle Milk Student Athlete of the Week this week. Do you get a gift bag or anything like that? I mean, maybe even a free muscle milk?
I don't know. I mean, we got plenty of muscle milk in the back, so I'll be all right.
Yeah, you just get the extra. You get the extra one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Calvin, congratulations on the game tonight. Congratulations on the win, 2 in a row for your club, and look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Calvin Hermanson, our Crown Plaza player of the game. Alex Jensen back courtside. We're lucky enough to be joined by Steve Kroner of the San Francisco Chronicle. Steve, great to see you again. It's been a couple weeks. We got to meet our quota here.
Absolutely. I've been doing some withdrawal without you, Alex, but I'll get over it.
You don't have to lie, Steve. It's okay.
No lying. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, hey, since we talked last, obviously the West Coast Conference season has gotten into full swing. We're almost halfway through now, which is crazy. I mean, it goes by faster and faster every single year. It seems.
Indeed, and there really hasn't been a big surprise.
Yep.
The top two teams are really separated from everybody else. BYU seems to be the third-place team, and then the other 7 on a given night, any of those other 7 can look pretty good or can look pretty bad.
Well, let's start off with the game of the conference season so far. The game a week ago tonight, St. Mary's at Gonzaga. I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch that game.
I did not. I was at a wedding, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough.
Not mine.
Excused. Of course not. Yeah. Now, that was a great game for 3 quarters of that ball game.
Correct.
And Gonzaga and Spokane's tough. And for St. Mary's, they went, I think, 5 minutes scoreless in the second half and 3 or 4 minutes scoreless in the first half. You can't do that on the road.
No, it's tough to do that at home and still win,
Sure.
much less on the road, much less at the McCarthy Athletic Center where Gonzaga rarely loses and Gonzaga hasn't lost at all this season. I was on with a station in Utah yesterday, and again, the question, is this Mark Few's best team, number one? And number two, is do you expect Gonzaga to go undefeated through the rest of the regular season? And I said, it's certainly plausible, but I said if right now, not that any of us ever bets or ever looks at betting lines, but if the game were to be played tomorrow night, Gonzaga at St. Mary's would be favored here at McCune Pavilion. I mean, the home court is a big difference in college basketball. It would be no huge upset for Gonzaga to lose at the Marriott Center. BYU still isn't quite as good as it's been, but it can score. And, if it has a hot night at home, it would be an upset, but I would say only a mild one for BYU to win in Provo against Gonzaga. Any other game for Gonzaga to lose would be a big upset.
That would be a shocker. Yeah, I think you brought it up. I mean, Gonzaga, I mean, that's the talk in the country right now, and I think outside the West Coast, people, tend to lean the way that Gonzaga will certainly go undefeated heading into the conference. But you mentioned it, 3 games still against St. Mary's and BYU, and 2 of them on the road where both here and Provo, tough places to win.
Absolutely. I mean, look, up until the Gonzaga game, and there's no real shame in losing by 20 even at Gonzaga when you were close most of the time. People would have said, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Gonzaga, there's not a whole lot from which to choose. Now, Gonzaga probably has inched itself ahead of the Gaels right now. I think that's fair to say, but it wouldn't be any big surprise. I believe it's 3 Saturdays from now for the Zags to come in here and lose to the Gaels.
What is it about BYU that every year, I mean, it's a loss at San Diego's better, and I actually think that the league is up this year, Steve, but what is it about BYU that where they have more letdowns than the other top two teams?
That's a really good question, Alex. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that, those guys, like, on one level, they're a young team this year because they don't have a lot of college experience. But they're an older team because of the guys who come back from missions. I don't know if that plays into it at all, that maybe they don't quite mesh the way they do. I think one thing, the old line, that defense wins championships. And BYU, at least since it's been in the WCC, has been a great offensive team, but not necessarily a great defensive team. I think if you're a better team than the other, but you're a better team offensively, that can lead you to be vulnerable to the upset if your offense isn't going that well and you don't play defense the way other teams do.
And you look at some of these other teams, a lot of the teams from 4 to 10, like you mentioned, they're capable of putting up 85 on any given night. Santa Clara, San Francisco. Now, let's talk about Portland for just devastating news. Alec Wintering done for the year with the torn ACL. His season, his college career is now over. He was one of the more dynamic players in this conference.
And one of the more fun players to watch, too, just from an entertainment standpoint. And, yeah, you really feel for the Pilots and Terry Porter, his first season. They started decently well. Now they're on a 5-game losing streak. They've lost their best player. And guess what? You just lost at Gonzaga tonight, and you get to play Gonzaga again in 2 nights in Portland as the makeup game from the snowed-out game a couple weeks ago. It's not a real fun plight right now for the Portland Pilots.
Have Santa Clara and San Francisco kind of separated themselves into those 4 and 5 positions right now from that 4 to 10 range?
I think so, and I think that both of those teams, if someone were to say 2 or 3 years from now, who are the 2 teams that could break into the Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BYU Troika, I would say those 2. Now, part of it, of course, is because we're in the Bay Area. We see them more often. But Herb Sendek is a proven coach at Santa Clara. He ought to be able to recruit. People at St. Mary's know what Kyle Smith can do. USF has a great tradition. Not a great tradition in the past 20 years, but certainly a great tradition in the past 50 or 60 years. And for someone who lives in San Francisco, it is a world-renowned city. That ought to be able to help Kyle in his recruiting. So I think not only for this season, but if you look forward the next couple of years, if the Gaels, the Zags, and the Cougars want to look down and be on the alert for 2 teams, I think it would be the Broncos and the Dons.
Watching San Francisco the last few years as compared to this year, I think you could make the argument that over the last 4 or 5 years, this is not their most talented team, but they may be getting their best results, with the exception of the one year where San Francisco finished in the top 3 under Rex Walters.
Right.
When you talk about a system, what's the main difference here?
That's a good question because, Rex's teams would pull an upset now and then. Rex's teams certainly were competitive. Yeah. But I think, haven't seen USF in person only once, but seen them a few times on the tube as well. They seem to play better together. I mean, if you look at last season, for example, Devin Watson was a dynamic point guard, but that ball rarely came out of his hand. This year, it seems like USF doesn't have a great player, but it has 7 or 8 or 9 pretty good players who play well together, and I think that's a reflection on the coaching of Kyle Smith.
Look at Pepperdine. Obviously, have been ravaged by injuries.
Yes.
They've had a few players transfer. It's never easy when you lose your all-time leading scorer and all-time leading rebounder in Stacey Davis, along with Jet Raines. But you look at this team now compared to last year, they're basically playing without 4 of their top 6. I mean, and they've just, you get into these slides. They've lost 13 of 14.
Right.
And when you get into that kind of slump, it's really hard to crawl your way back out.
Yeah, and you mentioned crawl. They got down 10 about midway through this first half and crawled back and scored 8 in a row. And you think, okay, they've cut it to 2. Maybe it's going to be at least a competitive game through halftime. And what happens? The Gaels go on a run, and I think even though people will say it doesn't go through their mind, it goes through your mind when here we go again, particularly when you've lost 13 out of 14, when you lost Amadi Udini, who was probably the heart and soul of their team. And if you look at from his injury to today, his injury happened, I believe, November 27th. They've won 1 game since he was hurt. Oh. It's hard to say one guy makes that big of a difference, but he certainly makes a big difference, and it's hard to overcome that.
It's hard not to look forward to February 11th. Obviously, there's a lot of basketball to be played, right, but I'm assuming you'll be here in person for that game, possibly.
I hope so.
If you are, what are you looking forward to most in that game?
I think the guard play. I mean, obviously, the fact that Jock Landale's become, a very good big man, maybe, certainly a candidate for WCC Player of the Year. But with Williams Goss, with Jordan Matthews, and that
Perkins,
group, and Perkins, and that group from Gonzaga, and as well as Joe Rahan has played. Emmett Noor has not played quite as well as we would expect Emmett, but he'll probably have to play well that night for the Gaels to win, and maybe get some help from Tanner Krebs off the bench. I would really be interested to see how the guard matchups work that night.
Tanner Krebs is really starting to emerge here.
I saw him that night against San Diego on New Year's Eve. And
nice player.
He's really helped. He's really helped the Gaels quite a bit.
Well, you put him with Calvin Hermanson and, Evan Fitzer, some good size on the wings for St. Mary's, and in the future, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, there's one thing we think about offense, but there's defense and rebounding, and Tanner helps in those areas as well.
Great point. Steve, thanks so much for joining us yet again. We look forward to talking to you in the near future.
My pleasure, Alex. Always a pleasure.
Steve Kroner of the San Francisco Chronicle. We'll take a quick break, come back, take a look at the stats and around the West Coast Conference on the St. Mary's IMG Sports Network.